A very good morning, team. A market update here for the major dollar pairs, and let's dive straight in to start with Euro USD, which has again not been doing too much as of yesterday. However, we have seen at the moment that the demand zone that was formed thanks to this change of character in towards the upside has now been retested with the ability or possibility of now pushing the market up higher. Looking at Euro USD here, we all agree that we are pretty much in a squeezing formation where Euro USD is waiting to break out in either direction. We're currently trading in the middle of the range here because the range for myself is from the low in towards the high, and we can see that we're currently stalling around this 0.5 fib level, which is acting multiple times as an area of support and resistance. Now, regardless of the consolidation and regardless of the liquidity or the wedge, what I'm looking at here is the daily time frame. And on the daily time frame, I can see that we've had a break of structure in towards the downside. Now, after a break of structure, what do you expect? You expect a retracement to happen. And where do we expect retracements to happen towards? Well, we expect them to happen towards an area of liquidity within the overall, let's say, impulse in towards the downside. Now, when we identify liquidity within this impulse in towards the downside, we can then identify liquidity as being this high here, and this high right over here. So ideally, before the next major leg in towards the downside, we would still see a little bit more upside from Euro USD to take out that yearly open and then give us a higher probability short position. Now, you might then be wondering, so Fabio, does that mean we can now buy Euro USD? Well, obviously, look, we're currently situated within an area of 4-hour demand. We have descending high liquidity here, clear liquidity above these highs, and we have the clear trend line in towards the downside. So yeah, to me, it does make sense for Euro USD to provide us with one more impulse in towards the highs to take out the liquidity. And then in the future, we can look for the short position. But this is a very, very risky long in my opinion. But do keep in mind that if it does play out, that would mean that we would have much higher probability shorts from around that yearly open back in towards the downside. So let's see. Maybe we can take some lower time frame setups because taking these kind of trades on the higher time frame is relatively difficult. If I'm very honest, looking here at the 50-minute time frame, there's not a lot for us to work with at the moment. We did take out a little bump in the road here, and this is, let's say, your overall 15-minute impulse in towards the highs that broke market structure. Then within that overall impulse in towards the highs, we have liquidity underneath this low and liquidity underneath this low. We have taken that out. So let's now see if the 50-minute internal structure is ready to kind of shift bullish and continue pushing us up higher. That could provide us with some good intraday long opportunities in towards the end of this week. Now, GBP USD. Let's discuss that pair as well, and then I'll dive into the dollar index. GU itself here is still the most bearish of the two. So obviously Euro USD and GBP USD move relatively similar. They have a high correlation. Looking at the overall daily order flow, we can still see that the daily order flow is holding bearish and has, sustained its overall downside momentum. We're currently still situated within an area of daily supply, making longs extremely difficult to justify and to take. We can clearly see here again that this is your overall high, this is your overall low, and the daily supply zone has again pushed the market down lower last week and could still push us down lower. Looking here at the 4-hour time frame, we can then also see here that we've had a retracement in towards this little liquidity high here. This was the 4-hour BOS down. The market retraced into premium pricing towards the 0.5 fib. So there's not a lot to get, again, in my opinion, to justify any potential longs. I was this morning also looking at the 1-hour time frame, and what I saw there was pretty much a high here get formed. It took out this highest little wick there, and then we saw a supply zone formed. Within that, let's say, supply zone, there was a little liquidity high here that got taken out. That's also what caused the big push downwards here. Not sure what this big spike up is. Again, probably some news. But yeah, guys, what can I say? Overall, there's not a lot to work with, in my opinion. I'm mainly just focused on the other pairs because for myself, GU and EU are just not high probability plays. And I'll personally be focusing on just waiting for them to become a little bit more clear, and especially Euro USD for myself needs to become a lot more clear. But I do like the fact that we now have this here as our demand zone, and from that demand zone I will be looking for us to take out these descending highs. So you can do with that information what you would like, but I would prefer one more strong impulse in towards the highs from Euro USD before even thinking about taking any potential shorts, because yes, indeed, we do have this daily area of supply, but if that daily area of supply really had supply, then I would have already seen or expected that next downside push. So from a daily perspective, for me, Euro USD makes more sense to start pushing up higher for now. Going into the dollar index then, what does that show? If I'm very honest, not much. If we're looking here at the 4-hour time frame, for me, it is still relatively messy. We've had a overall liquidity high sweep here of the highs. That's now pushed the market down lower. Supply currently in control, little liquidity swipe here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can take out some more liquidity before seeing the next push up higher again. For me, this was your overall impulse in towards the highs that broke market structure. So swing low, swing high. Now, what's happened is that we took out a little liquidity low here. That's caused the market to push up higher again, but we're not seeing any follow through. And also these lows are extremely weak. So this price action to me is, nothing noteworthy of. And we just have to sit it out because this for me is an area of consolidation. Moving on into AD USD and then NZD USD. So AD USD has moved a little bit higher. Again, nothing very high probability here on AD USD. All you can do is pretty much just zoom out and then understand, hey, there's still potential for this to sell off from a little bit higher maybe, but we're still inside daily supply, so we're still looking for the next leg down towards 0.5 fib before thinking about taking any longs for me. This price action doesn't show me any longs at all, especially from the fact or the perspective that we've had a order flow shift take place. This has acted as supply. This previously here acted as supply. So we've just been chopping down lower and lower. And ideally we would see, one more push back in towards the downside, towards the yearly open. But yeah, as you guys have been experiencing as well, markets have been relatively slow. So there's not much to do with AD/USD at the moment. Also price action wise, the downward push that was facilitated by the, let's say throughout the last month, we can clearly see as well here that it's just chop down. So it's nothing strong at all. So not a lot to work with, and no high probability setups for myself. Going into NZD USD, I was looking for a potential continuation of the immediate trend. We can clearly see that we've been trending down lower and lower. And what I've been looking for here is, again, break structure down. This is the liquidity high right over here, free monthly open and monthly open. So ideally before any shorts, that would need to be taken out. So this could still push up higher in the short term. Then, of course, USD pairs. So we have USD Swiss, USD CAD, USD Yen. USD Swiss for myself, still bullish, still makes sense to push up higher. Though, again, when we look at the markets, guys, we have to understand where we're currently trading, right? So we've had a breaker structure down. We've had a breaker structure down. Now, if we look at previous price action, we were traced into the premium and then we start selling off. Now, this time again, we've retraced into the premium above the 0.5 fib. And what does that mean? It means we could potentially sell off. If we look at the bumps in the road, this here was a major high, which we've already liquidated. So taking a long position, it makes sense because why? Well, the order flow directly is still bullish. So you don't want to be looking for a sell yet. But at the same time, we're already trading at a premium. We've already taken out major liquidity. So the setups that we've been calling in the market outlook, because I've been talking about USD Swiss buys for quite some time now, those have kind of like sailed. So it doesn't really make too much sense to still and try and force some positions in. So you just want to be looking for a potential short once the order flow were to shift, but the order flow is here. So USD Swiss will take some time before giving us a good setup. That would be over here. Then moving on into USD JPY, or USD JPY, USD JPY is still bullish. Not too much to say, but if you've paid attention to the market outlooks, then you also know that USD JPY is ranging relatively, and it is stuck currently within an area of resistance and support. And we're now at the higher bound of the range. So for me, the overall kind of like, let's say justifiable trade has played out. It's been consolidating since the beginning of April, so already for a week. So you're not looking to force anything in here and just waiting for a reaccumulation, some new price action before getting involved with this. USD CAD, we can see that USD CAD, sold off a little bit yesterday. It has been selling off slightly. Looking at the daily time frame, we took out a major daily liquidity high here. Again, guys, price action wise, what do we have? If we just look at it from a very simple perspective, you could say again that we have the breaker structure down, this here's the breaker structure down, this here's your swing high, swing low, and this is the internal bump in the road. And then if you go to the 4-hour time frame, excuse me, we've now seen the 4-hour change of character. So this break high, break low, this is now supply. But it's very dangerous yet because there's no momentum at all. So you want to kind of like wait for another breaker structure down, and then we would have more confirmation to potentially trade it back down towards these lows. So wait for it to sell off, wait for a little bit more momentum before getting involved with this is my personal opinion. And then of course we have gold. Now, yesterday I talked about the gold buys. Hope some of you took those because there was a very nice buy to be taken yesterday on the London session. I also shared this inside Discord. Very simple setup overall. We have the buy up, we have the buy up, and we were looking for the final buy in towards the highs. Yesterday morning, we were trading around this level over here. And what I then saw was that we were just seeing a demand chain here. So for me, it made sense to continue pushing up higher, at least towards the breaker structure line. Yeah, that played out nicely. So a nice overall short-term buy there on gold. Yeah, very, very simple setup again, as I was aiming to trade ultimately towards this blue dotted line here. But gold is now developing into, again, well, just like we've seen from the entire market, a range. So don't try to force any new positions in here, even though, yes, the market structure does remain bullish, and it does make sense to see one more buy up towards this blue dotted line here. So ideally, I would see one more buy. If we look at the market structure, this here is the impulse. Within the impulse, where's liquidity positioned? Here and here. We've taken out all of the liquidity. So now we're just waiting for this, let's say, area of resistance to break, and then we could get in on a final setup back up to 47.11. That's the kind of idea. So yeah, guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, as always, just let me know in the comment section down below, and speak soon.